Residents in West Clare who've been left shocked and disgusted following the discovery of dumped animal carcasses along a rural road in Kilmurry McMahon. The incident, described as horrifying, has renewed concerns about persistent illegal dumping across the county, with calls now for stronger enforcement measures, including CCTV at known blackspots. And joining us to discuss this is Clare's Ain2 representative June Dillon. June, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on and for covering this.
No problem at all. Really interesting and alarming story. Also with us is the Quilty Fianna Fáil Councillor Shannon. Michael, thanks for joining us as well.
Yeah, good morning, listeners. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
June,
good morning,
June. Can you describe to us, June, what you came across in Kilmurry McMahon? You said you were absolutely horrified. So can you explain to the listeners exactly what you encountered and why it affected you so strongly?
Right. Well, a neighbour rang my husband to say he had seen some dead animals down the road in a little bog road, just at the entrance to a bog road at the end of our road, and would I know how to get rid of them? So I went down and I took a photo and rang the council, but it was disgusting. I sent you the photo there. It looks like, now they'd been there overnight, I'd say, so what was left was, now my husband is convinced they were sheep. I thought they were calves, so it's hard to know, even to identify exactly what they were, but there was at least two animals there, and they were on a bed of old hay or straw that they'd been dumped out with. And then across the road from them, across the little road, because these are roads with like grass in the middle of them, there was a little wooded area, and there was a pile of rubbish gone in there, whether that was the same person or not. I sent you a photo of that as well. So I suppose it was just disgusting, and anyone I showed it to over the weekend, any farmers, they thought it was really a sad indictment of what somebody would do.
Absolutely.
So obviously someone made a deliberate decision to turn off the N68 a few hundred yards up the road and drive to this quite rural area and discard the dead animals in the countryside as if it was a refuse tip. And obviously decomposing carcasses, they can track vermin, spread disease, create environmental contamination, and to be honest as well, like, it's a moral issue, because our rural communities, they're not dumping grounds, they're homes, they're families there, there's farms, they're recreational, and it's just disheartening to see it. But I must commend Clare County Council. They acted really promptly in arranging the removal, but it's not an isolated incident.
Okay. And I mean, as you said, you sent us pictures, June, and pretty grim to look at, and the very fact that you couldn't quite decipher or figure out exactly what type of animal carcasses they were gives you an indication of how grisly
and not being too disgusting, but the heads were there, but there was no tags on them. So there was no tags to identify them or anything. See, that's the problem with all this dumping. No one's leaving any kind of identification, so it's very hard to find out who did it. You never will, probably, but all you can do is try and get the word out and ask people to be vigilant. Yeah,
and the fact there's no tags, as you say, somebody has clearly been methodical about this, premeditated. And you mentioned that this stretch of road it's very rural. It requires people to deliberately leave the N68 to dump waste, which tells you a lot, I think, June, about the nature of this particular problem.
Yeah, and this is a particular black spot. There's always tyres, mattresses being discarded, rubbish. There's a pair of boxer shorts hanging up on a branch there, so they're getting rid of all kinds of household waste, as well as now the animal waste. So I mean, really, like, we're not, Clare isn't, if you want to keep a sense of, pride in your area, which all these rural communities have, then we need respect for our environment, and it's not a luxury concern, it's foundational. It's really, really upsetting to see that someone would disregard our home area like that.
And Michael, just to bring you in, what do you make of what's been happening in that spot which June discovered, the rubbish and also the animal carcasses in particular?
Look at it, it's very, very disappointing that anyone would discard animals like that, and it has all the signs to me of animal cruelty. And I'll be contacting the Department of Agriculture today to see can we get DNA testing to make sure and find out who's responsible for this, because this is like 3 animals together and they're being decayed really dramatically. I'd say they were deceased for a while and probably left somewhere else, because as you can see, I don't want to go into the grisly pictures of the things, but most of the carcass is eaten and decayed, and they're being eaten by animals or something. So three animals, to me that they're like 3 year-and-a-half cattle, like, and at that age, young cattle they're healthy, and three don't pass away unless they're not being treated properly.
Yeah, so you're raising questions around the circumstances of their demise. Yes,
correct. Yes, and for anyone to dump 3 cattle like this on a rural, in an isolated rural area, nowadays it's alarming, really, to be honest with you. And
and I suppose.
Yeah, June, you want to come back in there?
Sorry, Michael. Sorry, no, keep going. I'm terrible for butting in. Sorry.
I'm looking. I thank you.
My friends are always saying that.
Yeah.
But I suppose the one thing is, like, and Michael knows this because he's farming, right? That farmers, I suppose, are under extraordinary pressure, right? Rising costs, regulatory burdens, and isolation. Now, it's not an excuse for illegal dumping, but I suppose maybe somebody you would think might be under pressure. Otherwise, it was just a reckless act by someone disregarding it, without any interest in the impact of their actions. And the other thing is, maybe someone was paid to get rid of them in good faith and just dumped them. So it's impossible to know.
I take that point, but whether June, it was the person themselves who dumped it or they paid somebody to do it, as you say there, they didn't think about the consequences of their actions. You touched on it earlier. It could attract vermin. I mean, there's a serious public health risk to anyone passing by there.
Because I have read someplace like about rogue kind of, people who say they'll dispose of animals and they're actually kind of rogue operators, and they don't actually dispose of them correctly at all. That's just some of the points that it could be. So I suppose the big thing is deterrent, right? And that's where there's like targeted enforcement of black spots, but you can't have somebody from the council there standing there all day, every day watching. So I suppose that's where deterrence like technology, cameras, drones can come in to action, and a collaborative response, not just with the local authority, but you'd have communities and other state agencies. And there is an initiative, the anti-dumping initiative, that provides funding for that kind of thing. I know in 2024, Clare got, I think, about 60,000 and it got about 90,000 in 2023. So, that there would be a collaborative response because the anti probably does have to be up to bit because of the amount of littering that's going on in forestry, boglands. It's just out of control, really. It's just everywhere, and then the wind blows it everywhere. So it's very unsightly, as well as dangerous for animals eating it, going into our waterways. I mean, you could talk forever about the negative impact it has. And I suppose we can't keep mopping the floor without turning off the tap. So we have to try and stop it. And if you look at other county councils, there have been issues, I suppose, as far as last week in Kerry County Council, they're looking at introducing CCTV, but they were told that any CCTV at littering black spots would have to be clearly advertised and visible to the public. And sure, if cameras are advertised, then people will just move somewhere else.
But at least isn't that... But June, isn't that at least acting as a deterrent? Okay, I know what you're saying, it's moving the problem elsewhere, but the more of those signs that go up, it is having the desired impact. Like I'm thinking of the dumping site, the recycling centre in Tulla, which we've spoken about a number of times, and if signs go up there, that will nip that problem in the bud.
Well, what Galway Council have done in January 26, Galway City Council, is they have a budget of 200,000 and they're activating the CCTV cameras and a drone. So, and there was a CCTV oversight committee formed in Galway. And if you see in places like Longford County Council, Carlow, Washford, Galway, they've had these public feedback consultations back in 2025, most of them, where they have a proposed policy for CCTV cameras, where they talk about how the council intends to use the CCTV, the targeted areas, and the legal framework and safeguards. So many of the county councils have put those in place, and you have the likes of Galway, Cork and Kerry looking to install the CCTV cameras. But in Cork, they were saying that there was complications with data protection for roaming CCTV units to tackle the more rural locations. So,
and I suppose just to bring Michael back in on that, because any time we speak about illegal dumping, Michael, the CCTV comes into it. We know there were GDPR issues in the past. The council has indicated CCTV due to be installed at dumping blackspots by this month. I suppose, better late than never. Frustration that it's taken this long, but also if we're talking about dumping blackspots, how many of those will there be? And does the site where we're speaking about now in the N68, does that count?
It does. I suppose, look at the local people like Joan down there. There's local areas, especially off the main national roads. There's little secluded roads, and there are people dumping on a regular basis. And we need to compile a list of those areas in a lot of the parishes and start picking them off one by one to implement the CCTV. Now, it may push people to other areas, but it's going to be a start. And, there's people, I suppose, look at the people that actually are doing this. They're aware, they know certain runs, and they know the certain areas that they'll get away with this offloading, Just a point, I suppose, really just to keep everything in order here. I'd like to give out the number for the Environment Section in Clare County Council to report any illegal dumping, and that is 065 68 62 916. And there's also an email that Enviroff at Clare County Council. Those two contact details, in fairness to the council staff on Friday, and I want to compliment him because it was an awful scene to clean up down there on Friday, and
they should be commended for.
They came within an hour or two. They were brilliant. Now, their response, like I rang, and within an hour or two they were over in Kilmurry McMahon. So I definitely would commend, and I did say that in my press release. I commend the Clare County Council. He was great. The gentleman that came out now, he was very proactive. And I just want to say there that I was looking there at the Clare FM News, a previous news thing from July 2025, and I thought it was interesting that he had said the Clare County Council had a total of 493 complaints about waste enforcement from January to July in 2025, and of that 493, 393 dealt with illegal dumping. So it just gives a little snapshot of the scale of illegal dumping in Clare.
Yeah, and Michael, do you think, on the scale of illegal dumping in Clare, are stronger penalties or enforcement measures needed, or even in terms of other measures? June mentioned in Galway, drone technology will be utilised. Would you like to see that utilised here alongside CCTV, if at all possible?
It's a very, very small percentage of people in Clare that do illegal dumping, and I suppose we really need to target those people and find out if, in fairness to the staff, they search through household rubbish to see is there any receipts or any, bills or anything like that that could identify the people who are doing it. But it's getting smaller and smaller all the time. Now, in East Clare, they have huge problems. I suppose there are people coming out from Limerick City and dumping stuff all over East Clare. But in West Clare, it's down to a few rural, isolated areas. And, dumping of carcasses of cattle is an extreme, even in Munster, I would say. And for 3 carcasses to be dumped together and passed away together, like that to me is on the border of animal cruelty. And whoever is farming these cattle, or whoever is, this stuff, the herd itself, there's probably more cruelty going on with the cattle and with that farmer. And it just doesn't represent the farming community of West Clare. We had an issue before a few years ago in Dunbeg with cattle, and this is very, very disappointing for the farming community in West Clare, and it's just not good enough. And hopefully the Department of Agriculture will come to the bottom of it and identify through DNA testing where these animals came out of, which herd they came out of.
Yeah, and hopefully they do.
And like that, you've given very clear communication there, Michael, to farmers and livestock owners about the legal disposal routes, that they can contact the council. If there's any issue at all, just contact the council and they'll respond very quickly. And I do know that some people don't bother. Now, for something like animals, they would, but like normally if you just see litter, you might try and pick a bit up, or just, people kind of just pass it by. And they say they're not going to bother contacting the council, but do contact the council if you find litter, or if anybody wants to contact me about their black spots, and we can work with the council and maybe try and get dumping from that anti-dumping initiative or something to help. But definitely make sure that any rubbish that you are seeing around the place, it's so dangerous for livestock and for people, please just get it dealt with, because you might be the only person that does it.
June, do you think stronger penalties or enforcement measures are needed for those caught dumping, and in particular, and thankfully isolated incident, animal remains? Any naming and shaming is always brought up. Will it take something like naming and shaming to really put people to the pin of the collar on this and make them think twice before they go dumping in places around Clare?
You see, I don't know if it matters to people it does, because what they're doing is they're doing it maybe in the darkness of night. They're doing it in very rural, isolated areas where they know they won't get caught. So obviously, it's not even like what the penalties are. It's more the enforcement and that the detection.
But I guess what I mean is in instances where now it sounds like in some of the ones that have been highlighted here, they've been very careful to cover their tracks. But in instances where they are lax and leave correspondence in their rubbish or an address or something that can identify them, is naming and shaming the best way to go in that regard? Highlighted in the local paper or in the media, so that will make people think twice before doing it again.
Yeah. Once you have the evidence and you have the correct person, then you definitely should be. It's something that will definitely deter people. It's just horrific that this kind of a thing has arisen, and that people are dumping everywhere, like not animals, but all around the place. So it's like clean-up alone isn't enough, and that would be a deterrent. And we just need the enforcement, and that's where you would have your use of technology and the upskilling of staff and the recruitment of staff, maybe, if there isn't enough in an area. But definitely naming and shaming would be a great way once you have the correct person.
Michael, would you like to see that route explored to try and really tackle this problem, or do you think naming and shaming is going a bit too far?
No, a combination of both, because anyone who dumps like this, the full rigours of the law need to be applied. We need to stamp this out. West Clare is a beautiful area, tourist area, summer area. We don't need this happening in our rural areas, it's very off the main roads and our small rural roads that people are taking advantage, dumping mattresses, dumping household rubbish. Everybody pays for a bin. Everybody has a bin in every house, and every 2 weeks our bin is collected, and that's that. And if there's mattresses or other household furniture that needs to go to the dump, the council always provide open days, for mattresses and things like that in Fianna and in other areas around the county. So people are aware of that. And maybe, I suppose, if we had more of those on an ongoing basis, it may diminish, this kind of dumping on a casual basis. But definitely dumping household waste. To the thing, if you don't have a bin, it's every week or 10 days you have to go out and find a spot to dump your bag of stuff. And that to me is not fair on anyone. And anyone whose name is in it and they can't prove that they have a bin themselves, and if they're brought to court, they should be prosecuted and named and shamed. Even Michael, if we see the installation of CCTV at dumping black spots during the course of this month, some critics do argue cameras just could simply move the problem elsewhere, which is something that June touched on earlier. You having to put up signs saying the CCTV in operation here. So how do you respond to that concern, that it's not eliminating the problem, it's just changing the location of it? It's changing the location, but also, I suppose, these rural black spots where people are used to dumping on a continuous basis. I think if the CCTV was erected in those areas, it will push people to other areas, but maybe it will reduce the amount of people that's dumping because they're afraid to get caught. And also, it'll be a combination of factors that will eliminate desperate act that people dump stuff like this. But you're probably never going to really 100% rule it out. But hopefully the people that are doing it will reduce in the future.
Yeah.
And by putting these TV and other technology in force may frighten people as well.
Okay, we're almost out of time. June, final quick word from yourself.
It's not just cleaning up after you offend yourself, it's about sending a clear message that Clare isn't open for dumping. So whatever we can bring in, like you say, to deter, to name and shame, bring in the cameras, bring in the drones, bring in whatever it takes, increase in staffing, more collaboration. These are the kinds of things that we need to try and stamp it out, because we have to aim high to get some kind of, response.
That is for sure. We'll leave that there for the moment. My thanks to both of you, the Clare Aintu representative June Dillon and the Quilty Fianna Fáil councillor Michael Shannon, with us on Morning Focus.